And we're coming to you live from the Built Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are in the free Odyssey app, good Monday morning. Speaking of thunderstorms and wet weather like Jerry was, I was shocked when I was driving in the torrential downpour this morning with the lightning, because looking at the Sayville weather, and I've been looking at it for a good, 3 weeks straight for July 15th, because today is the Sayville and Portly Villager Ryder Cup that I've been preparing for the last year after we lost last year, and I've been thinking about it ever since. It was a beautiful day. It looks like a beautiful day. Hot, but just no rain, nothing on July 15th. So when I was dealing with the lightning coming in this morning, that was a surprise, but hopefully it means good luck for the Portly team. And by the way, just a quick shout out to Flag and Anthem, who did an amazing job. We asked them to do the shirts this year. They did. We got Ryder Cup here. We got the Portly logo over here, and the money for the shirts is going to be donated to the Winter Center for Autism. So very, very cool stuff. And the Made Flex polo is just awesome, especially for a hot day like this. So that was what was on my mind this morning driving in. And I did make a call to Boomer over the weekend. It went right to voicemail a couple of times, but I felt like I was one of the first people that saw what happened in the assassination attempt in Butler County, Pennsylvania on Donald Trump, because I called my parents, I called 3 or 4 of my friends, and they had not seen it yet, not heard about it yet. And you were one of the guys that I called as well, because I was figuring you were, out east somewhere and enjoying the weekend, and maybe you weren't near a TV. And it was obviously as surreal as it gets, as upsetting as it gets. And I was not alive for any of the, JFK, RFK, even the assassination attempt on President Reagan. I was not alive for that either. Now, learned about all these things, but never experienced it myself. So to witness this was shocking. I mean, still to this, this morning, obviously just a couple days ago, it still almost doesn't feel real, but it's as real as it gets. And one of those things that will never be forgotten for any American that watch this and people across the world. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. I'm angry. I was angry back when President Reagan, they attempted to assassinate him. I was at the University of Maryland at the time, and I do remember that. And I remember, how Americans reacted to that, and I think many Americans are reacting the same way to this. I mean, there was somebody who was killed. He is a firefighter trying to protect his wife and children, yes. Corey Compantore. And then there were 2 other guys who reportedly this morning are in stable condition, thankfully, David Dutch and James Copenhaver. David is 57 and James is 74. They're sitting in a hospital right now wondering what the hell just had happened and why did it happen. And I'm like you. I was riveted to the TV. I was just watching it over and over and over again. I think most of us couldn't get enough of it and trying to figure out all the different reasons why something like this happens. We have a political rhetoric in this country that has been going on now for about, I want to say, over 10 years, maybe 14 years, where people are fighting back and using language that they probably shouldn't be using and inciting many of their followers to do things like this. This is a 20-year-old psychotic kid, and I blame the parents, actually, for not paying attention to what the hell's going on in their kid's life. But I think about the way that we all feel, and I don't care if you like this ex-president or the current president. Nobody wants anybody shot, of course, and nobody wants an attempted assassination, nor, luckily, we missed an assassination. I couldn't even imagine what this show would be like this morning if, in fact, he was killed.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that over the weekend, too, and I don't want to go even more doomsday than what happened, but, I mean, I can't even imagine it would have been like a civil war. I mean, honestly, like it would have been, people are angry now. People would have been absolutely incensed to the point of God knows what.
Right, and because we are so hypersensitive in this world today, I mean, there are sides and there are people. I mean, social media is just loaded with just jackasses every which way you look. So you try to stay away from that. But it's almost impossible to stay away from that because everybody wants to know how something like this can happen, and it's not so much the Secret Service agents that went on stage immediately. They did their jobs perfectly and exactly what they're supposed to do. They're reactionary, and their reaction was spot on, exactly what you should do. But the Secret Service and the security perimeter is supposed to be preventative. You're supposed to prevent stuff like this.
Yeah.
And when you don't prevent stuff like this is when questions start happening. And what's going on? And if you just for a minute take a look at what former President Donald Trump has been through since he started in office until now, and every aspect of what he has and his family have been through, it makes you wonder how something like this happens. And I don't want to even get into conspiracy theories. All I know is that I'm personally angry. I now know where my heart lies. My heart lies with this country, with the people in this country, liberal, conservative, in between, independent, Democrat, Republican. I want our country to be great. I want our country to be strong, and I want our country to reflect what our former president looked like on that stage as he was coming off the stage.
Yeah, and I wonder if, and this is, I don't want to sound naive at all, but I wonder if this does bring us together a little bit more than we have been in the last several years. Now, the reason why I say that is I think most reasonable people, despite many of those who despise either one of these candidates, no matter what side you're on, I feel like most reasonable people watch something like that and be like, okay, this has gotten too far. This is crazy. This is insanity. This stuff has to stop, and maybe it gets toned down a little bit. Now, that could be a naive take. It could get even more amplified. I just know in talking to a lot of people with a lot of different perspectives, there wasn't I didn't hear that crazy polarizing take. It sort of felt like
sad. It's sad. It's actually what it is.
Right. And I felt like most people were sort of coming together and agreeing for the first time in a very long time. And I see, I guess it was reported that the RNC speech that Donald Trump will have is going to be more focused on unity now. So obviously his campaign is understanding that and trying to play into that as well. So we will see how it goes from here. But I mean, to watch, here's another part about this is I called, like I mentioned, several people because I felt like I saw it at first and I was like, people need to know what's going on. And they didn't cut into really any of the big networks right away.
Of course they didn't.
Right away with it. And which was crazy. And then, like, if I called 10 people, let's say, 4 of them asked, are you sure it's real? Like, that's where we're at right now. Are you sure it's real? Like, yes. What do you think? Like, AI created this thing? Yes, it's real. And it just shows you how warped we are with the way that we consume information in 2024. It's like I'm calling you, like I feel like I've got enough credibility with my friends where I call you and say they just tried to kill Donald Trump. He got shot in the side of the head, in the ear, where they go, "Is it real? Are you sure?" Like, yes. I mean, it's such a weird time we live in.
Well, it is a weird time, and everybody's hypersensitive, especially the fringe elements of each of the major parties in this country. That's one of the reasons why RFK was trying to run, and because he was trying to find the middle ground somewhere, or is trying to find the middle ground somewhere. And it's amazing that presidential candidate, given the history of that family, does not even have Secret Service protection. I mean, I think, here we are yet again, another investigation. This is probably investigation like 50,000 over the last 10 years, from, Russian disinformation to Chinese disinformation to everything in between, and now this. And I would say that whoever the advanced person or people that were in charge of looking at the site and trying to understand where there were potential threats coming from, those are the people that are going to be held accountable. Whether it be the head of the Secret Service, or whether it be somebody that's working under her that had the responsibility to look in all directions to find out how somebody could get on top of a building, a 20-year-old with an AR-15 rifle, which is a semi-automatic rifle, which is a rifle that has been used in many mass murders. Sure. And it's been talked about plenty of times. And, it is actually when you think about it, I think the M16 is the military version of that rifle, but the M16 is an automatic weapon, not a semi-automatic weapon. So in order to shoot that weapon, you have to, release the trigger. You have to, pull the trigger, release it, pull the trigger, release it. And it sounded like there were 7 to 8 shots that were taken.
There was also shots from the snipers too on him. Yeah, right.
And then the other thing too is that we'll also hopefully find out, whether or not the returning fire, the snipers that were with the Secret Service, whoever those guys were, and we all saw the pictures of those guys, whether or not they were told to stand down or are they allowed to shoot something when they see something. I don't know that answer, and I think we'll find out that answer eventually. But, you would think that somebody in the advance team would look at that building where this 20-year-old was shooting from and say, that is a potential opportunity for somebody to crawl up there and take a shot at the president in this situation, and they missed it. Or there was a reported interaction between the shooter and a local policeman. I don't know how accurate that is, but
you saw that interview with that guy did with the BBC where he said that he watched the kid crawl up and the guy was trying to alert officials and nobody was really taking seriously. And that's just it's absolutely nuts that someone was able to see that, tried to stop it, and wasn't able to stop it.
And this is why, when you watch what President Trump has been through, for the last 10 years, 8 years, and you see this, I don't know how much more can one man, one family go through when you think about all of the different legal challenges, the Russia challenge that was spoken of as if it were real and it was proven not to be real, and now this. I mean, how is it's sad, but it's maddening, it's frightening, and that's why these political parties have got to tone down the rhetoric for sure, and I think people in the media have to tone down the rhetoric for sure. We've all seen the replays of at least 30 different people, from congressmen to senators to people on television in the political world, using words like exterminate, kill, put the bullseye. I mean, you got to be kidding me that you would use words like that. I know they're metaphorical, but the fact of the matter is you're turning on a fire within somebody like this 20-year-old who's obviously a psychotic human being to think that he could actually crawl up on the top of the roof and pull this off, and he almost did.
Yeah, he almost did. Yeah, and speaking of the media part of it as well, it's fascinating to watch how this was covered in real time. So what I like to do when something like this happens is to check out all the outlets. What is the national news saying? What is, the left slanted, the right slanted cable news network saying? And not a single one, right when it happened, put up on the headline that he had been shot. None of them. Like, it was just, which was amazing to me. So the headlines were more like Trump rushed off stage by Secret Service after incident at rally. All of this, and never said he was shot.
I think they want to be careful about saying the word assassination. I know
for
when
God's
we see
sakes, you heard gunshots and he's bleeding from his ear. It was pretty obvious. What do you need to be careful about? You don't need to say assassination attempt, but for God's sake, he was shot at.
But I think that's the point. Like, they didn't want to use the word the two words assassination attempt initially, like immediately.
Okay, but he was still shot at.
He was, but they did at that point. Right there at the beginning, nobody knows what he shot at with. Who knows?
Yeah, right. And then the first time you saw anything that had to do with shooting or shot at or whatever was when the headline came up, shooter is dead. And then from there, everything else started.
And then the word assassination started to be used. Right. And it should have been used. But I believe that if you are in a situation like that, you're living it live, it's happening live, even as you just pointed out, it's obvious to all of us what we saw. I think you got to be really careful about saying something until you actually know the facts. And we're sitting here on Monday morning, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what happened, how it happened, and get answers to questions as to why it happened and how could it have happened.
Right. Yes, all of that. It just
I'll tell you what, though, man. He is one tough SOB. He stands up in between those And he basically exposes himself.
Again, right.
Thinking that, okay, I'm going to put my fist in the air and I'm going to say fight, fight, fight. And, and you heard the people. The other amazing thing to me is that crowd, nobody really moved. I mean, you saw people bend down, but you didn't see anybody scattering.
Yeah, well, there's one guy in the background who doesn't. So most people duck at first, and there's this one guy who kind of looks like an oddball hippie, for lack of a better term. And he's just standing there and doesn't duck, nothing, doesn't have like any sort of panic or surprise face on at all. He's just standing there like, oh, what's happening here? So it's just, a video that we will, I'm sure, be remembering forever, unfortunately.
Really, 3 things that I want to know that come out of this. Number one, was there an interaction between the shooter and a local police person, whoever that person was, before that person got on the top of the roof? Number 2, I want to know whether or not the snipers themselves had him in their sights before he shot, and were they told not to shoot? Do they need a green light to shoot, or can they shoot themselves? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too, because this, as we've seen over the last several years, because of many incidents, law enforcement, people who have weapons are reluctant to engage first, because of a litany of issues that end up being
a litany of laws that have been written into the books over the last 4 years that disincentivize interactions between the police and the community.
Right. So I wonder if that had something to do with the fact of, let's just wait and see, because if we shoot this person and we go over there and they've got a water gun and a Biden-Harris shirt on, then all of a sudden we're the worst people in the world.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I would just say this. And I would think that this is the mindset of the Secret Service. If you see something, you have to do something.
No, I agree.
Because you're supposed to prevent things like this from happening. And the word prevention is a big part of what they do. And if you see somebody on a roof that's not supposed to be there, and I don't really care who it is, from that distance away, and you can't tell, there's no reason for that person to be on the roof. What I don't understand is why all you needed was a cop or a couple cop cars in that area, and you would have stopped this guy from climbing on that roof. And again, like I said, I want to know whether or not it is true that there was some sort of interaction between him and the police before he got up there on the roof.
Yeah, and trust me, I'm with you. Someone who is putting themselves in that type of situation, an army crawling and getting in position, that person needs to be shot at first. I agree. I just wonder if the training has changed over the last number of years because of all of this stuff that has gone on in America.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to think that that's not the case with the Secret Service. The Secret Service has got one job.
Right.
They see something, they have to react. And if they make a mistake, it's an unfortunate mistake, but somebody put themselves in a situation where they were going to force them to react.
Right.
Now, whether or not they had him in their scopes before he actually started to shoot, I don't know that. There's been claims that that's been the case, but only the shooters know that.
Right.
And there has to be, if they're going to do an investigation, of course, but it has to be totally transparent. We have to know why this person was able to get off the shots that he was able to get off. That we have to know that. And we have to know that because we have to trust our government. We have to trust these people that make these decisions on a daily basis. And there's been a fight going back and forth as to whether or not you will trust the government. That's where we kind of find ourselves at right now. And no matter what our president says now on TV about coming together and toning down the rhetoric, I think that has left the building. That has left the garage. That is already out there. And there are people that are on X posting on Instagram that, he missed, and it's too bad he missed.
No, those people are.
But I'm just saying, that's who this one person is.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes is one.
Right. No, I know. But anybody who's saying something like that
You also know that in 2015, Congress looked at the Secret Service, and they went through all the different ways that they could make the Secret Service more effective, better, and they went through all the different things that were going wrong at that time, they felt. And that was 2015. And I saw one of the congressmen who was sitting on the committee and doing all the recommendations, basically livid that obviously nobody listened to what happened back in 2015 about how they could make the Secret Service even more effective than they had been. Because there must have been some sort of issues within the Secret Service that needed to be handled. And when something like this happens, you now all of a sudden look at all of those things that have happened in the past, and you say to yourself, who is in charge? Like, who is running all of this?
Well, we're going to find out now.
Oh, hell yeah, we're going to find out now.
It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. Quick break. Jerry will join us with a sports update, give you the Mets and Yankees from yesterday, ending on a little bit of a sour note, but a very good 6-game stretch for the Mets. We wanted 5-1 or 6-0, and we got it.